Our next guest, Curt Mills, the executive director of the American Conservative, pointed out that, quote, the only comparable level of foreign infiltration was accomplished by the Soviets. To discuss the apparently special U.S.-Israeli relationship, as well as the general goings-on in the Middle East these days, we're joined by Curt Mills, his first time actually on our show. It's nice to meet you, Curt.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
I follow you on X. I love your takes. I read your work. So I was, of course, encouraged to see that you obviously feel the same way that I feel about Mark Levin. And yet in the last few days, just the last few days alone, President Trump has endorsed his book, encouraged people to buy it, to watch his show. Why can't Donald Trump just quit Mark Levin?
Look, I'm not going to psychoanalyze the president, but I think the essential appeal here is pretty clear. Levin is hiding the ball on his past and on his central policy views, which are basically unreconstructed George W. Bush neoconservatism, maybe even worse, frankly. And he is cloaking that by appealing to the president's vanity, which I think most would say is his Achilles heel.
It is, but how much of an effect does, say, Mark Levin actually have on the foreign policy decisions that President Trump or his administration makes?
I think for the last 30 to 45 days, he's been influential. I mean, there was an anchoring on a sort of special lunch that was held at the White House in Levin's honor, where he was a special guest at that. I think that wasn't particularly per se important, but Levin is in the president's phone. The president has appeared on Levin's show. And, he is pushing, a very hawk Israeli neoconservative line on this. And, it's not particularly sophisticated stuff. I mean, if you just look at the publication feed, the man usually types in all caps. There's frequently typos. This is somebody who wrote an entire book about the alleged malign influence of something called the Franklin School. He meant the Frankfurt School, sort of German Marxist, movement in the 20th century. This is someone who is a hack, frankly, and who does not really see any distinction between U.S. and American and Israeli national interest. And I think we've seen the basic consequence of that, which is that whatever Benjamin Netanyahu makes up in Jerusalem on a given day is what Levin is driving, and it is striking. For this contingent that sort of cloaks itself as the, quote, true MAGA, and says anyone who is attacked is a, quote, an influencer. Anytime they don't get every specific iteration of their way, they whine and whine and whine and throw a hissy fit. Case in point, last week when Israel, not content to have a 5-front war, opened up yet another war with Syria. And the White House was reportedly, very upset about that. That the special Middle East envoy Tom Barak in Ankara sort of negotiated against that. And Levin wants Trump's friend Tom Barak's head. I mean, this is somebody who will not stop. It's not like you can do what Levin wants, or Netanyahu wants. You can take the summer off, take a respite. We are still dominated by this, and it's not even the end of July.
Mark Levin not just cheerleading for war with Iran, but also Ukraine. In addition to that, he's demanding that we ignore the Jeffrey Epstein story as well, saying it's not important. Let's listen.
We have a lot to run on, and you have a lot to run against, given the other party. But I will tell you this, we better be united, we better be strong, we better be focused, we better be articulate. We can't waste our time on Epstein and other stuff that are going on here that some people want us to focus on. I've about had it with all that stuff. We better focus on who we are, what we're doing, where we want to take the country, and what they want to do to the country. Mr. Speaker, God bless you, my friend. I appreciate you very, very much.
You too, Mark. Thanks for all you do. God bless.
He's not the only influencer pundit that we've heard that exact same verbiage from. We've heard it now from many, including Ben Shapiro. But it seems like that line might be backfiring because the American public isn't accepting that. And they've gotten quite a bit of backlash. And I actually had a source call me yesterday and say, well, Yeah, essentially, he's our guy, talking about Israel. He's our guy, right? But he's not Netanyahu's guy. He's Ehud Barak's guy. So I think that might be the shift that they're taking now that the line, just ignore it, isn't working. And Ehud Barak did visit Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse in New York some 27 times, right? So is that a valid argument?
Look, I think the administration made a tactical mistake in its handling of the Epstein case. It hasn't gone away. It's only metastasized in public interest since their initial approach. So I think that was obviously an error. Supermajorities of Americans want all the files released, including supermajorities of Republicans, based on all available data. The reality here is that it is striking that those who want the most Iran hawkish, Middle East hawkish, pro-Netanyahu, pro-Israeli government hardline approach think there's nothing to see here with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, you don't need to indulge the conspiracy theory world by just saying that the preponderance of the evidence indicates that Jeffrey Epstein had a mysterious accumulation of wealth, number one, and number two, had significant ties to Israel. And number three, there is a preponderance of evidence that he has significant ties to intelligence agencies, possibly US, possibly Israeli. And there's a very fair question, is this currently impacting US foreign policy? And President Trump is in a no-win situation if he just tries to shut this down. This all occurred when President Trump was a private citizen. Epstein was, pretty much in exile by the time he came into the White House. So for Trump to choose an alliance with people who wanted to shut down any inquiry into Epstein, I think that's a total loser. This is the kind of way to attrit young voters. It's the kind of thing to, bleed the sort of Joe Rogan type voters, the type of, critical linchpin that his plurality command mandate in the 2024 election.
And I think that Trump is realizing this isn't going away, according to Representative Ralph Norman, talking about the reception last night that Trump had with Republican lawmakers. He said that the president said that he would be releasing everything, is what he told them. That was off camera. That was in this private reception. So we shall see. But let's talk about the potential impact on foreign policy and geopolitics, because we're still looking at Iran, right? Iran says it's restarting its nuclear uranium enrichment program. Trump said the bombings of the facilities were total. Also, Iran is set to begin talks again with the United Nations, according to headlines today. Curt, so where do we stand, and where is this headed?
This thing that's going on with the Iran negotiations is there's this concern about snapback sanctions that can be put on by the Europeans in August. It's a bit technical, but basically the Iranians need to return to the negotiating table, at least vis-a-vis Europe, to prevent that from happening. Zooming out, the foreign minister, Arachi, did an interview with Fox News, Brett Baer. I think, pretty unusual that Fox would even allow that kind of platforming. So you see, basically an Iranian state that does want to come back to the table, but is very apprehensive and, thinks that it is possible the U.S. colluded with Israel to hoodwink them. An understandable anxiety. I don't think the evidence is there. So there, the communication between these two countries remains pretty poor. But I think you see, and I think, again, a little counter to the Russian case, you see a country that very much does want to make a deal. Now, they have a pretty clear red line. They don't want to agree to it. Zero enrichment is basically an Israeli line. But I think there is ample opportunity here for a deal that is way better than the deal that Obama got 10 years ago. And Trump's got it right on the table, basically on offer, if Trump and Steve Witkoff can go back and negotiate with the Iranians this summer and into the fall, and not have Benjamin Netanyahu sabotage the proceedings as he did in June.
So you're saying that Trump is actually sitting in a pretty good place right now in order to get an even better deal with Iran?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, this is a deal between the U.S. and Iran, and that's a similarity. There's a similarity between the Obama deal, but it is basically a complete canard and poor description to say that this is just JCPOA 2. This is pretty different. This is a more hardline government in Iran. Iran's in a different position. Trump, if deal, it will be a Republican-backed deal, sort of a Nixon goes to China situation. It will be much more likely to be durable for the foreseeable future. And then additionally, it's very possible the Iranians come down on their enrichment number. It's very possible they allow stuff like above ground inspections. This is stuff they never agreed to with Obama. Iran is in a much different position than they were 10 years ago, and Trump has the opportunity for a diplomatic accord that avoids a war. Now, of course, Israel wants a war, and they want the United States taxpayer to pay for it and potentially put American personnel in danger. And I just fail to see how that's in the U.S. national interest. I think we have had a clear political verdict for elections now, not just Trump, but also his predecessor, Obama, and with Biden, to get us out. Americans do not want war hawks. It is a D.C. and Jerusalem thing that makes this happen.
Final question. Trump has said as recent as 3 weeks ago he would bomb Iran again if necessary. Is Trump in a better position because he does have that credible threat? Does that bring Iran to the table, or does that kind of push them farther away from any potential diplomatic solution?
I think it's murky. I think they're certainly intimidated. Some of the Israeli assassinations of IRGC Revolutionary Guard figures was pretty impressive tactically speaking. But the reality is a plan to just keep getting the U.S. to bomb Iranian nuclear sites, which number one, Trump and Pete Hegseth seem like they don't want to do. That's why they're being so adamant that they actually got rid of all this nuclear material, although I'm not sure that's established. I think if the U.S. doesn't want to be in a situation in which it's committed to doing Israel's foreign policy for it, that is prolonged bombing campaigns forever and ever, that this is all that Trump does as president, need to hatch out a deal this year with the Iranians.
Yeah. It's good to know that he's at least sitting in a good position to do so now. We'll watch how this develops over the next 3 weeks or a few weeks. Curt Mills, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us with the American Conservative.